Need some tea this morning. I don't know about anyone else, but I have had a lot more time on my hands of late, and that has also meant that I've had a lot more time to be on Facebook. And I've always sort of accepted that Facebook is just kind of the wasteland of ideologies, but I don't know. You have it so that you can find the people whose phone numbers you don't have when you need to talk to them. So, in that I've had more time to be on Facebook recently, that's meant I've had the opportunity to experience a lot more hot takes on the internet, and I've had the social emotional energy to interact with those hot takes. I can't believe we're still talking about masks, and I can't believe that we're still talking about the pandemic. As I remember it, and I could be wrong, but as I remember it, around March, sometime in mid-March, a little before spring break, I think if I remember correctly, is when at least schools in Arkansas shut down. A little later, the next month, in April, I put out a video talking about my own perspectives on the pandemic as it was evolving. In it, I talked about how I wasn't really afraid that a lot of my fear was sort of hypothetical, or that even if it did get to me, that it wasn't going to hurt me. It's been a few months, and I have some more perspectives. My last one had a script. This does not. I sat down, made tea, haven't showered yet. Just wanted to get my thoughts out. A lot of people have died. I haven't looked in the past few days at the death rate, but the last time I checked, it was somewhere around 130,000 people, and that's kind of a lot. That's not a small number. All the time on Facebook, I see people talking about the death rate and throwing out some weird numbers that I don't know where they get. I'm gonna pull it up right now, in this video. World Health Organization COVID death rate. So I searched World Health Organization COVID death rate. Let's go to the COVID-19 dashboard live. So you can see right here that the deaths are 597,105 with a little over 14 million confirmed cases. Just for science, let's calculate this. We're gonna do 597,105, and we're going to divide it by 14,007,791. 0.042. Now, that translates to about a 4% or 4.2% death rate across the entire world. So when people throw out, it's only killing like 0.8% of people, that's just not accurate. There it is, okay? Now, maybe you don't trust the World Health Organization, which I'm not entirely sure why you wouldn't. It's literally the World Health Organization. But let's go to the CDC. COVID death rate, United States. This one's fun because you don't even actually have to go to the website. It just shows you. So, we can look. Total cases, 142,000. Or sorry, total deaths, 142,000. Confirmed cases, 3.78 million. So I'm gonna pull over that handy dandy calculator. We're gonna do 142,000, and we're gonna divide it by 3,780,000. I have to always think about this so I do it right. I think that's right. Yeah, I have to imagine the commas in my head. So when we do that, in the United States, we're looking at about 3.7%. It means that out of every 100 people that get the disease, 3 or 4 of them are going to die. One of the things that I encounter a lot while doing this, my tea is ready, while arguing with people on Facebook, is a distrust of the CDC and of the World Health Organization. This distrust is largely fueled, from what I can tell, by our president and right-wing commentators who want to downplay the disease for whatever reason, or the infection. So often I see people talking about this death rate, calling it small, but that doesn't really matter. 142,000 people is 142,000 people, human beings that have died from something preventable. See, this is the thing I think a lot of people don't really understand. Get my tea. Oh, I spilled a little. COVID is not this just thing that happens and it's inevitable. We can limit the spread of it and deal with it. It's not a thing, it's not like you're just gonna get it or not. It doesn't just happen magically. It happens by predictable means, and because we can predict those means, we can get ahead of them and prevent you from getting it by doing things like, oh, I don't know, wearing a mask or staying home when possible. This is what floods most of my Facebook when we're not talking about Black Lives Matter, which we shouldn't stop talking about Black Lives Matter. I'm just really tired of like boomer white people talking about Black Lives Matter, because they're not friendly with it. So the things I see most common are people talking about whether it is constitutional or not for our government to require us to wear masks, whether that's overreach or not. Oh, God, I needed this morning. Whether it's overreach or not. Second, whether or not masks are even effective at all. And third, the whole idea of, well, if you're afraid, you wear your mask. Or stay home. Let's start with that last one. Okay, here's the thing. Not everyone can stay home. I have friends, and I'm sure that most all of you have friends, that literally worked straight through the pandemic. Never had a chance to quit. Never got a chance to do that. And if they had quit, instead of being like furloughed like a lot of people were, they just would not have been able to afford their rent, which, by the way, they still had to pay. So saying just stay home is stupid. I'm sorry, I'm tired of being polite to you about it. Not everyone can do that. And now let's think about this for a moment. Assume for me for just a moment that masks work. Even if you don't believe that, even if you don't agree with that, assume for me, just for the sake of argument, that they do work. Okay? And let's say you're saying that and you're saying, well, okay, well, if your mask works, why do I need to wear a mask? Let's imagine this. Let's say my name is Phil, and I work at Walmart, and I wear a mask all day, maybe even one of those cool like face shield things, right? And then you come into my store and you don't. You walk over and you take a look at a couple things, maybe you put them back down, maybe you don't touch anything, but you get close enough and you breathe on it, okay? I spend all day going around the store, touching things, maybe refacing them. Even though I have a mask on, I might have touched whatever you breathed on or touched, and potentially picked up the germs that you put on it. And sure, I'm gonna wash my hands, I'm gonna sanitize my hands, but think about how many people go into Walmart. It is going to be really hard for Philip to constantly fight those germs because they're literally everywhere. All it takes for Philip is one mistake, and then they could have it. You could help make that easier by covering your face. This is again assuming that masks work. If you cover your face, you are less likely to put your germs on things in the store. It's not even just about breathing out in the air. It's about your germs on things that they have to touch. Maybe you don't want to do that. Okay, well then you're literally asking another human being to do more work to keep themselves safe just so that you can be a prick. That you're being a jerk. There's no other reason to do it, even if you think they don't work. Even if you think it's totally bogus, that worker that didn't stop working through the pandemic is very anxious and very stressed out and or a little nihilistic and probably just accepted that they're gonna get it and die. So like, man, dude, just wear a mask, make them feel better. Not doing it is a choice to deliberately bother people. That's all, it accomplishes nothing. You aren't hurt by wearing a mask, you aren't. Wear one. Or another thing is, of course, whether or not masks are effective. So let's see if they're effective or not. Now, okay, there's generally speaking 3 kinds of masks that are in wide circulation. There are the surgical masks, ones like blue and white on either side, the N95 masks, and pieces of cloth we put across our face. Let's go over here back to our handy dandy internet. So I'm going to search. I'm gonna have a sip of tea first. Here we go. A little lovely tea ASMR for you. Mask, can't spell. Mask. I've already done this. Effectiveness. Meta-analysis. Now, a meta-analysis is when a group of people take a bunch of studies that already exist and analyze all of them. Not just one, but several. The one I went to, this whole, the Lancet thing made me a little weird. In general, I tend not to trust .coms very much. You can say what you want about not trusting the government, but like, y'all, science and the government have been fighting for a while, so I feel like I can trust the scientists. You know, i.e. climate change. So this is one done by the NCBI, and watch, I'll show you. This is great. NCBI. Oh, not Netflix. God. National Center for Biotechnology Information. The United States National Library of Medicine, branch of the National Institutes of Health. So this is a national organization doing a meta-analysis. Efficacy of face mask in preventing respiratory virus transmission, a systemic review, and meta-analysis. Conflicting recommendations exist related to whether masks have protective effect on the spread of respiratory viruses. Okay. They talk about the system, they talk about the results and the conclusions that they draw from those results. You can read this entire study. It's free. It links to all of the other studies. I didn't go check out every single one of them, but many of them you can read. A total of 21 studies met our inclusion criteria. So they took 21 studies, not just 1, 5. Meta-analysis suggests that mask use provided a significant protective effect. Use of masks by healthcare workers and non-healthcare workers can reduce the risk of respiratory infection by 80%. I thought, well, okay, wait a second, though, when I was reading this. So first of all, masks work. Wear them. Science! Masks work. Now, I thought to myself, Somebody might object to this. And what might those objections be? The first one I thought is, well, Stephen, those are for surgical masks and N95 masks, but don't say anything about cloth masks. So I thought, you're right. Let's go look at cloth masks. So I did. Cloth mask effectiveness study. Look, CDC release. And then I thought, okay, well that'll be good. I looked at, let's do this. And then I went to this, and we'll talk about it too. So the CDC puts this out, and it's talking about whether cloth masks are as effective as surgical masks. Plot twist, they're not. Big surprise. I don't think anybody thought that. Cloth masks have been used in healthcare and community settings to protect the wearer from respiratory infections. The use of cloth masks during the coronavirus disease, COVID-19 pandemic, is under debate. The filtration effectiveness of cloth masks is generally lower than that of medical masks and respirators. However, cloth masks may provide some protection if well designed and used correctly. Multi-layer cloth masks designed to fit around the face and made of water-resistant fabric with a high number of threads and finer weave may provide reasonable protection. Until a cloth mask design is proven to be equally as effective as medical or N95 masks, wearing cloth masks should not be mandated for healthcare workers. In community settings, however, cloth masks may be used to prevent community spread of infections by sick or asymptomatically infected persons, and the public should be educated about their correct use. Yeah, they don't work as well, but they do work some. Now, you'll see people talking about how the disease is super tiny and it's just going to go through the masks. All right, dude. They don't just fly around. They travel on droplets. Like when you do the thing with your breath where you go on a window and it fogs up, those little bitty water particles, that's what it travels on. That's the crap you're putting in a store when you go and you breathe all over everything. And that's why when you have a mask on and you wear it, it gets a little hot and a little damp. That hotness and dampness is evidence that your mask is working. And the problem with studying these things, I did look around for a while, there's so much variety in how masks are made that doing any kind of definitive study is hard, because some people just have a piece of fabric, some people have got some different fabric with layers, some people put their own filters in it. It's like they're all different, so saying definitively how any one thing works is really, really hard. But conclusion, the study suggests that community mask use by well people could be beneficial, particularly for COVID-19, where transmission may be pre-symptomatic. The studies of masks as source control also suggest a benefit and may be important during COVID-19 pandemic. Like, the science is not unclear. Everybody needs a mask. Now, I've also seen but how can we trust the CDC? They've changed their minds. Okay, look, guys. Early in the pandemic, they're like, I think it's probably fine because it's a new disease that we don't know a whole lot about. And then once we got a lot of, data, they were like, oh, hey, yeah, dude, masks, we gotta have them. They're necessary, clearly. And if you're not sure, please just look at literally every other country. Choosing to ignore what the science is telling you is being willfully ignorant. That's willful ignorance. You are making a decision to ignore information. What was the third thing? There were three things. I said them at the beginning, and now I don't remember what they were. There are at least two things that, whether it is constitutional or not, for our government to require us to wear masks. I don't know about you, but I don't really think there's anything in the Constitution that specifically addresses this. I don't know. I can't think of anything in the Bill of Rights that specifically is like, hey, the government can't make you wear a mask if you don't want to. Like, there's nothing there, really. it's not that big of a deal. It's like if the Bill of Rights was like, the government cannot mandate that you wear a silly hat on any given day. I can't make you do it. It's like, they didn't bother making that because it doesn't matter. It's not gonna hurt anybody. Like, even if the government tries, like, oh no, it's a silly hat. What are we gonna do? People talk about government overreach a lot with it, and that the government shouldn't have the power to mandate something like that. I don't know where that comes from, because, like, y'all, the government has a lot of power. And this isn't a right or left or anything. It's just like, this is it? This is the hill you're gonna die on? This is where we draw the line for government overreach. Not anywhere else. Not anywhere else. We're gonna draw the line here. It's weird, because I see a lot of this being talked about on, like, Fox News, for instance, which is pretty on the right. CNN's pretty on the left. Fox is pretty on the right. Everybody knows this. It's not a surprise, right? Okay. But I see it talked about on Fox News as if our government is not currently primarily Republican. Like, it's like we've got Schrodinger's Democrat. You know, it's the dirty Dems that are pushing toward government overreach, but it's like our government is largely Republican, so I don't really know what's going on. The reality is, though, some of you that have watched this have come all the way through this looking to just pick at me, looking to find anything that I've misspoken or that you can go Google and argue with. That's why you're here. You're here to contend with me. And the reality is that, unfortunately, a lot of us decided what we were going to do about masks long before there was any information about it. Let's not kid ourselves here. This isn't about effectiveness of masks. This isn't about government overreach. This isn't about any of the things that I've been talking about. It's not. You either decided early on that you wanted to wear a mask because it might help. You think it could help. Or you decided that you didn't want to wear a mask because you just don't want to wear a mask. And then later, we've used the data or the rhetoric to back up what we want. That's the fact. I decided to wear a mask long before I started reading studies on this. And those of you that don't want to wear masks, you decided long before you decided not to wear a mask that you weren't going to wear one, and then looked up information and rhetoric to back up your claim. Let's not kid ourselves here. This is a difference in priorities. Ignore for a moment all of the information. Wrong or not, those of you that have chosen to wear a mask have done so because you care about other people getting sick as well as yourself. Like, you want to protect yourself, but you also recognize that you need to do this, or at least that you feel like you should do this because it might keep other people safe. If you choose not to wear a mask, regardless of whether or not it works, you have chosen to do so because you really only care about yourself. There's no other motivation. There's no real reason to not wear it. It doesn't hurt you. And I see all those things that people say about, like, you know, what about people with certain disabilities who can't wear them? I'm gonna be honest, I'm sure they exist. I'm sure there are people who, for whatever reason, cannot wear a standard mask. There are lots of other options. In fact, I have one. It's cool. Respect the drip. My mom made this. It's a bucket hat with a plastic shield on it. This is a thing that can help. If you can't have a thing over your face, ta-da, I can still breathe fine. Oh, here's my favorite part. Watch. Do you see that? That's what you stop when you wear a mask. So first of all, there are other options for people who cannot wear a standard surgical mask, a cloth mask that goes across their face, or an N95 mask. There are other options. Secondarily though, the people arguing that aren't the people that have that problem. I've seen that argument a whole lot because they're arguing against the government mandates that are making people wear masks, which, by the way, at least in Arkansas, specifically allows for people who have medical issues preventing them from wearing a mask. It's there. So that argument doesn't even make sense, at least in Arkansas. But yeah, the people making that argument, y'all aren't the ones that have a problem with it. You just don't want to wear a mask and you're willing to use literally anything you can to not wear a mask. It's not going to hurt you. If you're one of the people that still believes that it is affecting how much air you get, please use Google for 5 minutes. It's not it's not gonna hurt you. I'm sorry, it's not. Part of what I wanted to do with this video was just to show that honestly, anything I've cited or talked about, I spent 5 minutes, not even that long, Googling it. It's not hard. In the age of information that we currently exist in, where you have access to the internet, if you aren't using that to look up information, I don't mean to share memes on Facebook that you saw somebody make that agrees with your opinion. I'm talking to Google things, to go to reputable sources, maybe even multiple reputable sources, and do some reading. And then using the reading you haven't done to form an opinion, you are being willfully ignorant. There is no excuse. None. I don't care how old you are. I don't even care what you've said or believed before. Information is available, and if you aren't using it, you're doing that on purpose. I think at the end of the last one, I talked about how I wasn't afraid, but I should be. That's not true anymore. I'm afraid. I'm a teacher. I go back to teaching in a few weeks. So do my students. They come back. And yeah, I'm worried for myself. I'm gonna be honest. I am terrified. I've seen cases of people who were perfectly healthy, more or less, get the disease and then die. The fact that I'm 28 doesn't matter. None of that matters. I could still die. But that's not my biggest fear. We can argue about what the death rate is all we want. But when we go back, if we don't wait, some kids are going to get it. And some of those kids that get it are going to die. It's mathematically obvious. And for those of you thinking, oh, but it doesn't really affect children, please Google it. It doesn't affect children as much, but kids can still get it and can still die from it. And it has happened. And if you're thinking, oh, well, that's a really small percentage and more people, stop. If we go back and a kid gets it and that kid dies, it is directly the fault of returning. That kid's death was preventable. Easily preventable. And if you're pushing for it, for teachers and students to go back, and you think that any death that could have been prevented is acceptable, you don't care about us. And you can't pretend that you do. Most every teacher I know, and the ones that I interact with on Facebook, are not in favor of this. Most of us are terrified. So I guess I just ask, two big things with this. First, that you listen to the experiences of people who this impacts. Think about my made-up person, Philip, who works at Walmart and is terrified to get it because they see thousands of people every day coming in, getting germs on their stuff, touching things, and then putting them right back. It's terrifying. They didn't get a chance to stop. They can't just stay home. Their mask works, but if they're not 100% vigilant and you choose to ignore everything that's been said about being safe, you could get them sick. And the second thing is, you as a person should care about other people. And if you don't, I'm not sure you can really call yourself a person. If you're willing to send people to a death that could have been prevented on purpose for no reason other than so you can get things going, you are not a good person. The economy is made up. Literally all of it. It is entirely made up. It is a construct. Yes, this has an impact on the economy. Some of the impacts it has had are permanent. But you know, I don't know about you. It's just me personally. I think I would rather be a little broke for a good while, maybe have to restart, than be dead. This isn't a joke. Take this seriously. Wear a mask. And don't listen when people tell you that it's not a big deal. Don't listen to people on Facebook who are going to argue with you about whether or not all of this is reasonable. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't really want to do a commercial at the end of a more serious video like this, but I have to. Hey buddy. I don't really want to do a commercial after a more serious video like this, but putting out content is expensive. Getting better cameras, research costs money sometimes. I'm buying a fair amount of books so that I can put out well-researched content. I have a few monthly overhead things, and it makes a huge difference if you go to my Patreon and subscribe. And those numbers are small. I think my tiers are like $3, $5, and $10. Like it's not gonna hurt a lot, I promise. And it would help me clear a lot of my overhead. I do have some bonus content on there, so it's not just you going to support, you'll get something out of it. I have a couple of playthroughs that I've started, and I'm working on editing the rest of some games. I did this a while back before I actually started the channel, and on there I also have a response to a response that I did about systemic racism that has Ben Shapiro in it. So if you want to see that content, pay $3 or whatever, go join my Patreon and you can watch it. And then if you don't really want it anymore, whatever, you can cancel it. That's still $3 that helps me pay for more books. It also never hurts to follow my various social media platforms. You can get a lot more regular hot takes there. I have an Instagram, a Twitter, and I do Twitch stream games, so if you're into that thing, follow me. All of it is The Eclectic Aesthete. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. I'm never going to have a cup of tea in this house while I have pets that won't have at least one cat hair in it. And that is just the life I have chosen to lead. But anyway. I don't want to stop.